Resident Evil 7, the seventh mainline title for a franchise coming off of its previous games, getting major flack and criticism for missing the major component that made up for what was Resident Evil. Specifically, Resident Evil 6 was the final straw for many people back in the day, not liking the sort of action movie kind of style that the franchise went for with this game. Capcom, deciding that the series needed to turn back around and go back to its roots, gave birth to what is now called Resident Evil 7. Starting off with the story, we start with our main character, Ethan Winters. After getting a mysterious text from his wife, who has been gone for 3 years, he decides to head on over to the southern country, ending up in Dover, Louisiana, showing up to what is a beautiful, beautiful house. Slowly making his way closer and closer to Mia. If only he had known what has been going on around here. After entering the creepy part of this mysterious place, he checks around, only finding nasty bugs and rotten flesh in sinks and refrigerators and pots. Once making his way upstairs, he finds a mysterious tape, and after watching the tape, he learns of this family, the Bakers. Nothing good going on around here, but after finishing the tape, he pulls a secret lever, makes his way down to the basement, where he finds his once was missing wife. Starting off, I just want to say this game, it's just done so much for me. I think I don't even know where to get started. Like, so many things about this game that I just love and just really appreciate that Capcom did. One of the first things people have noticed with this game was its horror aesthetic. Going for a more scarier approach than usual with Resident Evil. Resident Evil was never known to be exactly scary, only when you were a kid. This game terrified the hearts of many playing this game for the first time, with its jump scares, amazing sound design. Like, when I say this game has amazing sound design, it's one of the best ever, and I just think that's an underrated part of the game. Exploring the guest house, you just know that something's not right around here. It just does so many things right for this intro. However, a bit annoying to do on repeat playthroughs. Of course this is me being me, but I've replayed the game like over 1,000 times, so I've kind of gotten used to it. Not really a big deal for me, but I can understand where the complaint was, and the game somehow not having skippable cutscenes is just a little weird. I don't know what they were thinking with that. I don't know why they didn't think that. It's kind of a weird thing. After your first boss fight with your own wife, a mysterious man comes up welcoming you into his family. First off, I just want to say that the characters in this game is just top tier. Like, you've got the whole Baker family, like that one cutscene with you eating on the table. It's just so iconic, man. The characters are just so amazing. I love Jack. I love Zoe. I love Marguerite. I love Lucas. It's just, you can't forget about Jack, man. Jack is just so cool. Oh, amazing. After getting done with the dinner cutscene, however, this is the very first start to, the classic sort of Resident Evil vibe around here. Except it's much more newer and more unique, taking place in an actual resident's home. And it's just beautiful. It's definitely, designed very amazing. Beautiful is not quite the word to use for this kind of place, but in its own unique way, it is beautiful, and it's just super cool. Escaping Jack, you finally get to meet up with the cop buddy, who does end up getting killed real quick. And this boss fight, though, is a quick little boss fight, a little cool, very memorable, and just some good old fun. After beating this boss fight, however, and making your way to the double doors at the end of the hallway, this is how you know that Capcom really, really wanted to show not only just new players, but the OG players what they're getting themselves into. Opening the door, you are welcomed with a beautiful, beautiful atmospheric room. A little tune that goes along with it as well. And if you pay attention, the way the room is designed might look a little familiar to you. Yeah, they were going for that good old kind of mansion design here. It's just so amazing. Okay, just put in perspective. If you are a Resident Evil fan or just a survival horror fan in general, walking in this room should give you all the right vibes. Just looking at the stairs alone, like the second floor, of course, if you're a new player, like you're just exploring, you kind of have no idea. You know, if you have never really have played survival horror games, but a survival horror fan, when they walk into this room, should know exactly what's going on around here. After getting the call of Zoe, you can sort of explore your way around, which is where the game kind of actually starts. Kind of a long intro, but once you get past all that, this is where the game really just opens up. Glory one reference with the shotgun. You can read a couple papers and everything. On the first floor, though, you can either grab a clock or a part of a clock thingy, bring it back to the first room, and get one of a mysterious dog head. Interesting. You use it on one of the doors that is meant for escaping this house. Going up to the second floor, you see different ways to go. It just brings back all the right vibes. But it's just so unique because Resident Evil 7 does this thing in such a unique and interesting way to where it just I don't know, it just really does feels like its own unique thing. I just think that's super cool how they did it the way they did it. In the southern country, it just does it right. The second floor, you get to find a tape, watch that, see Mia's perspective, meeting with Marguerite, and find all kinds of goodies up here, even the second dog head. After going to the bathroom, draining the water in the tub, you can get a piece that is used for the downstairs puzzle. But you kind of run into Jack Baker, so you have to get away from him first. Making your way down, you use the puzzle, climb through that little thing, and go into another room, which again just really shows why this place is just so well designed and its own unique aesthetic. The whole country look, the deer heads on the freaking wall, and all that kind of stuff. After going through a couple of doors, you can see your first enemy, which we'll get to in a little bit, but there's sort of a thing that I kind of love and hate about this enemy. But overall, it's pretty much your sort of zombie, this is Resident Evil 7's version of a zombie, and in many ways, I think it's cool. I really like it. Kind of a cool enemy. It's kind of memorable in a way. This might seem like an enemy that's just sort of just there. It's sort of memorable in a way. I kind of know these guys a little bit. It's like they have their own personality or something. I don't know. Going down the hallway, you can see there's a weird scorpion door. I don't know what that's all about. And before you make your way downstairs, you have to check out what's in this room. And man, do you just get hit with one of the greatest RE save rooms of all time. Yes, Capcom is back at it again with the beautiful save room area. First off, and just beautiful music. They knew what they were doing. They knew the occasion. They saw the equation and they just knew how to just complete it. They knew the agenda and what was going on around here. Making your way down the basement, get a little creepy vibe down here. Every single time I replayed this part, I sort of just felt just bad vibes, like something's watching you and it's random noises. I don't know. Exploring the basement, killing a couple of enemies. You got a couple of rooms. One room, if you complete a puzzle, you get a key for another area. Then you explore another area which has a door that leads back to the entrance, which is a cool detail. And here you find that key, the weird scorpion key. If you're curious enough about what the scorpion key does, if you recall, there was a door on the second floor that had a model of a shotgun. Going to that place, you might have to deal with Jack, but you can use the model shotgun to get the real shotgun, and now you've got yourself a pretty good weapon in this game. I mean, it's a standard shotgun. What else do you expect? It's a shotgun. Going through a couple more doors in the basement, enemies, you finally make your way to the third dog head. And this boss fight is actually a pretty cool boss fight. I kind of like it. It's really, really cool. Very fun. This action is kind of, it can even be pretty hard depending on what your status, inventory status is. This game has the thing where the better you're doing, the harder the game gets to sort of combat the game from being too easy. Almost like if you're doing so good, the game will dang near be just as hard as the hardest mode in the game, which I'll get to that later because I have so many things to say about that. Overall, pretty good boss fight experience. Going up, you go to hear this old lady singing a familiar tune. She's a little weird. Once you place all the dog heads in, you can finally go outside to hear another tune. It's the beautiful tune. It really makes you feel like you made progress. And, it's cool that it happens like 2 times, and it's just really amazing. Here you got, in my opinion, one of the best, areas in Resident Evil. I don't know how to explain it, but it's sort of like a hub area. Resident Evil is sort of known for the level design with having one big area and having one main area that leads to other areas. Like the mansion with its, of course the entrance, you're going to have different doors, the RPD, stuff like that where it's one big hub area that leads to other areas. It's kind of like that. I think this is well designed, the whole backyard, really, really cool. After collecting some loot and calling up Zoe, you make your way to sort of the second section or quarter of the game, which is the old house. The old house, in my opinion, is really, really good. Again, another S+ part of the game where it has that nice level design, pretty short, however, but it does add some interesting creatures, the bugs, which are annoying, but they're just there to fit the environment, I guess. Once you complete this area, though, a really, really short section, you get the crow key. Now, if you had it in your mind, you probably would have gotten the weapon that was in that crow key door at the Baker residence. But just in case you haven't remembered, you just go ahead and make your way to the crow key door. After a little mini boss fight, Marguerite, you go up to the crow key door, explore the area, get some weird piece and whatnot. On your way back, you see Marguerite. Making your way to the greenhouse, I believe it's called. You get into, in my opinion, the best boss fight of the whole game, which kind of isn't saying much because the boss fights in this game are not really too special. I think the chainsaw fight with Jack, the first boss fight with Jack, and Marguerite boss fight were the only really interesting ones. This boss fight is very, very fun. It's sort of I'm not going to call it hide and seek, but, once Marguerite sort of turns into a spider, she crawls around, she hides, and you just have to find her. It's a little, I don't know how to explain it, but it's pretty fun, and it's pretty scary, too. I don't know, super duper cool boss fight. Killing Marguerite, you take her lamp, whatever, use it on the door back in the old house, and then make it all the way to grab the arm. Very important piece. After that, you make your way to the trailer. Get an interesting call from Lucas. You're the ones who go down to the basement. After making your way to the basement, you'll eventually find the snake key, I believe it's called. Using this key, you can open some doors in the house that weren't able to be opened before, which again, this is something that Resident Evil has done before, and I'm so glad they brought that kind of level design back, really having you curious as to what some of these doors are like. When am I going to be able to open them? And then boom, you're finally able to open them. Like, whoa, okay, that's cool. So even the house expands even further, even if not by much. You're still seeing some parts of the house, and it's just such a cool little detail that I love when survival games do. After getting the red and blue key card, make your way to the sort of third quarter of the game, which I'll argue this area is not bad at all. Like, it's not bad, it's kind of memorable in a way. But at the same time, I feel like this is where the game sort of starts to decrease a little bit. Like, it goes from S tier to sort of an A plus, maybe just an A with this part. It's not bad, but it's nothing really too interesting, especially on repeat playthroughs. That's not really something that I too much care for. Making your way past this part, you gotta do Lucas's weird puzzle, then get the second arm piece. Heading out the door, you go to a pretty beautiful area. Pretty cool. I kind of like this part actually. Making your way up to Zoe and freeing Zoe and Mia, you get to the third boss fight. As I said before, this third boss fight is not really too crazy or interesting. I mean, it's kind of cool. It's fun. Whatever. After beating him, you're forced to stab him with one of the serums, leaving you with only one choice. Now, this is a part of the game that is easily the stupidest part of the game. I really don't want to talk about it because I've been talking so good about this game, but I can't forget to critique the game on things that just shouldn't even exist. First of all, the problem here is that there really is no choice. You kind of just forced to choose Mia, which, yes, she is obviously the correct option, but the problem with this choice is that the second choice just sort of defeats the whole purpose of replaying the game to see what happens if you save Zoe. Like, why would you make a second choice if that second choice leads to both of them dying? And for Zoe, she dies easily. Like, what? And not only that, but it sort of just doesn't explain how Mia ended up on that place. I'm not sure if it's because they were in a rush. That's what it seems like. Like, think of the A and B in scenario in RE2 Remake and put that with this second choice, and it kind of lines up. It kind of makes sense. Like, where things just sort of just don't connect. It's not explained. It's there for no reason. Like, this had to have been done in a rush. This had to have been a last second thing. I swear it has to have been. But knowing that negative part, you go on to save Mia to a part which a lot of people hate this part. But let me just explain why I think this part is actually not as bad as people think. First of all, let me just talk about this area, the ship section. Playing as Mia, you got to play, this sort of like a memory kind of part, some backstory. I feel like starting from the ship and onward is where the story really kind of gets good. It gets more interesting. You learn more about everything in this part. Exploring this dark abandoned ship, you should make your way up to the third floor, where you meet up with Evelyn. We learn more about Evelyn later. But first, she wants you to watch this tape. And this tape, in my opinion, I think this is the reason why people hate this part. Let me explain. First of all, watching the tape, you're sort of just playing a memory of Mia's, just things sort of go down. It kind of gets wild here. It's a cool section of the game, but something Capcom kind of hasn't learned a lesson on yet is that do not force players to replay a part of the game that only matters on the first playthrough. Like, if you know the story of this game, this part does not matter. It doesn't even affect the real, actual game. Like, it has no effect on it. Like, why are you forcing players to play through this over and over? Like, this is never a problem in Resident Evil, but for some reason, in the newer ones, they have this problem where they force you to replay a game or a part of the game that just only matters when you don't know the story. Like, add a skip button once you beat the game. I just don't get it. Anyway, however, Once you get past this memory section, you're now at the section of the boat which goes by super duper quick. And let me explain. First of all, I think this part of the game has some interesting level design. It sort of keeps that nice level design in survival horror, which it's even more dangerous because you're playing as somebody who, like Ethan at one point, didn't have anything. So the situation was much more scary. Now that the game is taking away everything, you feel like you're in Ethan's place all over again, except you're his wife, Mia. Now Mia has to deal with all this in her own situation. So you're basically just replaying the game over again as if the game started with Mia and not Ethan. I think this part is fine. I don't even think this part is bad. It goes by so quick. There's like a route that I do that immediately just gets me to the end of this part. Like once you get to this part of the game, it's basically already over. You only have to do like 3 things max, I think. First of all, like it's super duper quick. I can't get off the top of my mind like the route I take. It's a pretty quick route. You don't have to spend here long at all. I don't think this is the part that people talk about when they say they hate this part per se. Just using my own experience, I just think it's the memory part. Because really, this part is not that bad. Once you get past though, you finally make your way to Ethan. You get one of the best cutscenes in Resident Evil in my opinion. It just sums everything up so much. It's such a beautiful cutscene. Playing as Ethan though, make our way all the way to playing as Ethan though, we have to make our way all the way back to the Baker house. This part of the game, again, is a recurring theme of Resident Evil where the ending of the game is not really as great as the beginning. So there's nothing much I can say about this part. It gets more actiony. It's actually kind of fun just killing the moldeds left and right. Overall, it's interesting. Once you finally make your way to Evelyn, you stab her with the syringe, and she finally shows her true form. This boss fight sucks, kinda. Nothing interesting, nothing special. But I do love the feeling you get when you beat her. I think that's what makes this boss fight kind of cool, is that it kind of has a way of really representing the end of the game. Like once you put Evelyn to rest, it just has a way of really making you sort of think about the journey that was Resident Evil 7. Every time I kill her, I just get the sort of image in my head of starting over at the beginning and then making my way all the way here. I just love that feeling of just like thinking, wow, it feels like I've gone through a whole journey even though I only beat the game in like 4 hours. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. Chris returns here too, which is cool. Really, really cool. Also, I know this is a bit random to bring up, but as I was talking about earlier, the enemies in this game, there's one big, major, giant problem with this game and its enemies is that there's really no interesting enemy types in this game. They're all molded, but even the molded can't do anything really interesting or different. They're kind of just the reused enemy types that we've seen in other games. Like, the regular molded is the sort of zombie, the fat molded, the liquor molded, which, it's in the name. Then these bug molded, which are annoying, but, easy to kill. So yeah, it's really nothing special, but for some reason I love these guys so much. Like there's something I love about the molded in the game. And for some reason, I feel like in comparison to other enemies in this game, like maybe besides the enemies in Resident Evil 4 and 5, for some reason the molded feel like they sort of have more of a mind on their own than being mindless. Like they're not just zombies, but they sort of have an actual mind. And there's something about the way they come after you that it feels so intentional. Like it feels like a real enemy. Like they want to kill you. They're not killing you out of sort of second nature because of what they've become, but it's more so what they are. And they're there to stop you. They're there to kill you. Overall, Resident Evil 7, if I had to describe it, is a modern masterpiece. It takes everything that Resident Evil did in the past with its older titles and puts it into a fresh, more unique way that just does something so special for me, honestly. If I had to give anybody who's new to survival horror or Resident Evil games a recommendation on which game or which Resident Evil game they should play, it would definitely be 7. To me, in my opinion, the level design in 7 is probably the most simple out of any Resident Evil game, to be honest. You really can't miss the mark on the level design in this game. It's pretty basic and simple, but I guess that's the point, and it kind of makes more sense in a way since you're just in a house or you're in a ship. It's not meant to be that complicated, just by default. But even still, I feel like this game is it makes the most sense for a newer player to play, considering that it does everything the older games did, the survival horror, but just puts in a modern setting. So with modern controls, modern graphics, Resident Evil 7 is the newer entrance, a new way to enter into the franchise as a new fan for everybody, I think. I think that's all I had to say about this. I love this game so much. Forever and forever will. It's one of the greatest games ever made, in my opinion, which isn't saying much because I feel like a lot of Resident Evil games are one of the greatest games ever made. I mean, Capcom just knows how to do it. But anyway, I'll see you next time when I talk about the next journey for the Ethan Winters family, Resident Evil 8. And trust me, I've got a lot of things to say about that game. And to be honest, I've had mental battles for a while on which game was better, Resident Evil 7 or 8. I still don't know to this day. I still don't know. But anyway, that'll be the next journey. Nathan Wolf out.